best strikers in the world were many times self-taught, such as Bas Rutten. When we talk about Bas Rutten's palm strikes, it's really a misnomer because actually he wasn't using palm strikes. It was more like the broken hand wrist strikes in Gong Fu or Kung Fu. They say in Kung Fu, if you break your hand, use your wrist. If you break your wrist, use your elbow. If you break your elbow, use your, it goes all the way to your teeth. The saying goes on. It's a great koan. I know koan is from Japanese, but proverb, as it were, from ancient traditional Chinese martial arts. So, getting back to that boss liver palm strike, Joe Rogan describes it best. He was really flexible in the wrist. I didn't realize this till Joe said it. And he wasn't striking with the palm. It was like a punch, but instead of folding over and reinforcing the punch here, it was like he had no hand. He was just hitting you with this bone. So in many ways, it was more powerful than the punch because you didn't need to kind of fuse the punch to the hand either this way or that way. You know, the problem is tightening the wrist and making sure it doesn't buckle. He didn't have to do that. He was striking with the end of this bone and this tiny bone here, which is actually technically in the hand, but it feels like it's in the wrist, which martial arts masters use for breaking stuff. And this stuff is a definite knockout point. It's about the size of a BB. Really hard bone right there. So it's a brilliant shot, but it's impossible to understand if we think about it as like a patty cake palm strike. You know, some people say never punch in a street fight. Well, that's not a bad idea, but your wrist strike or your palm strike has to have the venom and the rage and the power of a full-blown punch. If it does, if it has that thunder, if it has that power and that action, then yeah, you can hit him with the wrist, you can hit him with the elbow, you can hit him with whatever you want to hit him with. I saw a guy from top position hitting a guy in an MMA fight with his chin. What? Hey, it works. And Muay Thai, it's used a lot. So yeah, palm strikes, are they effective? Yes. Especially since I always say, anytime you throw a punch, a power punch, and you don't land in this part of the face that I'm covering, if you land in this part, you're gonna shatter your hand. So with this palm strike, it's called a palm strike, it's really a wrist strike, you can concussively and percussively hit these parts of the head that you couldn't touch without shattering your hand. So in terms of that, yeah, wrist strikes, open hand strikes are totally underused. And also Benny the Jet Urquidez said, which is brilliant, is that it's more striking surface hitting area, which is an interesting way to think about it. I've known a few martial arts masters, I'm certainly not one of them, who could do crazy stuff with an open palm. Pradal Saray, Muay Thai, Tai Chi masters, it's powerful if you can really learn how to use your palm for fighting. So just wanted to talk about that Bas Rutten palm strike, because it just occurred to me the other day, that's not a palm strike. He's hitting with this as if no hand existed. As if he was born without a hand and it was just here, but he was throwing a power hook. That's why they were such devastating knockout punches. So shout out to the great Bas Rutten, such a great teacher. And I want to talk about one other thing he says all the time. The longer a strike travels, I can't do that, the Dutch accent, the more power it has. I wish I could remember his name. Decades ago, over at the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu at Valencia, if anybody remembers it, I'll link it below. There was a guy who was an old AAU champ. He appeared on television in the 60s, old-time boxer. And he had us practice punches like this, literally a rear cross. I mean, he had us walk on a line and, you know, throw 1, 2, 1, walking with every shot. 1, 2, 1, walking forward, walking back. 1, 2, 1, walking left, right. He has to do all those standard drills that any boxing coach will have you do. But he also did one drill that I've never seen any boxing coach ever do, which is he had us drop both of our hands, make a fist, and not your traditional boxing stance when one foot here is and one foot is here. One foot was right behind the other, and we would just hold a fist and do a huge right overhand right cross, or with the forward hand all the way from the waist, swing and do a left hook. So you'd never do that in a fight, but now I understand why he was teaching us that. Now, because it's part of this Bas Rutten principle of whole body power. The longer a strike travels, the more power it has. And then if you can, of course, take that long power and compress it and compact it into a short explosion, if you can can it and compress it and condense it and get it to pop open like a can of worms, then you've got that Floyd Mayweather power.